Dear Mr. Carraway, this has been one of the most terrible shocks of my life to me. I hardly can believe that it is true at all. Such a mad act that man did should make us all think. I cannot come down now, as I am tied up in some very important business, and cannot get mixed up in this thing now. If there is anything I can do a little later, let me know in a letter by Edgar. I hardly know where I am when I hear about a thing like this, and am completely knocked down and out. Yours truly, Meyer Wolfsheim. Let me know about the funeral, etc. Do not know his family at all.
Hello?
This is Label speaking.
Yes?
Hell of a note, isn't it? Give a wire?
There haven't been any wires.
Young Park's in trouble. They picked him up when he handed the bonds over the counter. They got a circular from New York giving him the numbers just 5 minutes before. What do you know about that, eh? You never can tell with these hick towns.
Hello? Look here. This isn't Mr. Gatsby. Mr. Gatsby's dead. Hello?
Who's this?
Who's this?
No, who's this?
This is Mr. Carraway.
Oh, this is Clip Springer.
The funeral's tomorrow. 3 o'clock here at the house. I wish you'd tell anybody who'd be interested.
Oh, I will. Of course, I'm not likely to see anybody, but if I do,
Of course you'll be there yourself.
well, I'll certainly try. What I called about is,
Hey, wait a minute. How about you tell me you'll come?
well, the fact is, the truth of the matter is that I'm staying with some people up here in Greenwich, and they'd rather me be with them tomorrow. In fact, there's some sort of picnic or something. Of course, I'll do my very best to get away.
Huh?
What I called about was a pair of shoes I left there, and I wondered if it'd be too much trouble to have the butler send them on. You see, they're tennis shoes, and I'm sort of lost without them. My address is care of B.F. Hello? Hello? He had reached an age where death no longer has the quality of ghastly surprise, and when he looked around him now for the first time, and saw the height and splendor of the hall, and the great rooms opening out from it into other rooms, his grief began to be mixed with an odd pride.
Jimmy sent me this picture.
It was a photograph of the house, cracked in the corners and dirty with many hands.
Look there. And look there. Jimmy sent it to me. I think it's a very pretty picture. It shows up well.
Very well.
Had you seen him lately? He came out to see me 2 years ago. And bought me the house I live in now. Of course we was broke up when you run from home. But I see how there was a reason for it. You know, he had a big future in front of him. And ever since he made a success, he was very generous to me.
Can you please wait 30 minutes longer to see if anybody else will show up?
Yeah, sure. Let's sit under the ones that the sun shines on.
I'm into that. I couldn't get to the house.
Nobody else could either.
Why, my God, they used to go there by the hundreds.
I know.
Poor son of a bitch.
with you, Nick? Do you object to shaking hands with me?
Yes, you know what I think of you.
You're crazy, Nick. Crazy as hell.
Tom, what did you say to Wilson that one afternoon?
I told him the truth. He came to the door while we were getting ready, and when I sent down word that we weren't in, he tried to force his way in. He was crazy enough to kill me too had I not told him who owned the car. His hand was on a revolver in his pocket the whole time he was upstairs. What did I tell him? That fellow had it coming to him. He threw dust in your eyes just like he did in Daisy's, but he was a tough one. He'd run over Myrtle like a dog and didn't even stop his car. And if you think I didn't have much suffering, look here. When I went to give up that flat and saw the darn dog biscuits sitting there on the sideboard, I sat down and cried like a baby. God, it was awful.
At the end of the novel, there are two important phone calls made that showed the reality of Gatsby's American dream. The first call with Klipspringer showed how shallow the business was. Supposedly, Klipspringer was one of Gatsby's better friends, and he didn't even bother to go to the funeral. The other call from Chicago showed just how risky the business was. Gatsby had a pure American dream in mind, but a tainted way in which of achieving it. He convinced himself that bootlegging was okay and justified because it helped him to get what everybody else was after, the American dream. It also represented how the people of the time were primarily concerned with money. They didn't care how they got it, just as long as they had it and they were happy. They knew there was a possibility of a stock market crash, but they were so set in their ways of having money and being known for their wealth, they didn't consider it. Also, the industry was going so well that they thought the greatness of the stock market would never crash.
The scene with Gatsby's father admiring Gatsby's house showed how the stock market was booming. People built the stock market up to be this great thing, the way to achieve your American dream. I mean, they put all their money into it, they put all their faith into it, and once the stock market crashed, there was no American dream. Their money was gone. There was no way they could do anything. And people's lives revolved around materialistic things such as money, and just basically people depended on the stock market. And Gatsby's father was really proud of him. He saw all this wealth that his son had acquired. Gatsby had bought him a house. When he showed up for the funeral, he saw this huge house, and he was really proud of him. He thought he was a brilliant man. He thought he was successful. And it was all because of the wealth that his son had. He never stopped to realize or think about how no one showed up to his son's funeral. No one was there to carry on his legacy. He never considered that his son would have died alone, unhappy, broken. And his father based everything on Gatsby's materialistic life. And Gatsby's father represented the rest of the population. All he saw was Gatsby's wealth. He didn't see anything else.
Gatsby's funeral scene shows that Gatsby had no true friends. He had friends that were there for him when he had the money and when he had all the parties, but when he was gone and he had his legend only living, nobody was there to pass on his legend. The stock market can be related to Gatsby's demise because when Gatsby died, Nick had to scrounge around for friends to come to his funeral, just as when stock market crashed, people had to scrounge around for money and do anything they could to get money. And also, this scene can show how hollow the American dream was. There was no real substance to it. All it was about money and parties and being liked at the time. It didn't matter if your legend lived on. A quote in the book on page 180 that supports this is by Wolfsheim. "Let us learn to show our friendship for a man when he is alive, not after he is dead," he suggested. "After that, my own rule is to let everything alone." This shows how the feelings of almost everybody at that time period was. They didn't care about what was going on when people were living, or when people died, but only when they were living. The murder of Gatsby by Wilson can be said that it was out of revenge and out of emotion. When Wilson murdered Gatsby, he went over to Tom's house first just to see who the yellow car belonged to, even though Wilson already knew that Tom knew, and Tom didn't really want to expose it, but at the same time he did. And when Tom told him that it was Gatsby's car, Wilson didn't think twice about it being Gatsby who was actually driving the car. He just went out in rage and rampage to kill Gatsby and clear his own conscience. And after he cleared his own conscience, Wilson killed himself.
The scene with Tom shows how Gatsby's dream was finally crushed. While his dream was slowly on the decline from the beginning, the fact that Tom gave Gatsby away to Wilson showed how quickly people could crash and burn alongside their American dream. Daisy was the factor that contributed to the sharp fall of Gatsby's regime. She led to Gatsby's demise. And she and Tom symbolize Gatsby's own stock market crash. Tom and Daisy parallel the factual stock market crash, and Gatsby's death parallels Fitzgerald's real-life failure. After the stock market crash, Fitzgerald was basically finished. Many Americans, while previously engaged in those kinds of lifestyles, weren't living luxuriously anymore. Other Americans were unable to buy the books because no one had money to spend on the books or the desire to read about lavish lifestyles. Lifestyles that were once the American dream. At that point, the reality of the so-called American dream sank in. It was something sought after but never tangible.
East Egg, darling. More fashionable than the West Egg.
Sometimes I forget where we are.
How could you forget? Go to West Egg.
All I know is we go to Waterloo. That's what they do.
I hope that Gatsby's dead now.
It's been one of the most terrible shocks of
Sharks! Roar!
He had reached an age where death no longer has the quality of death, and saw the heightened splendor of the hall and the great rooms opening out from it into other rooms. His grief began to be mixed with
And brought me this house. Brought me this house. Now.
We can start over. You want to start over?
I tried.
And if you think I didn't have a share of suffering,
Oh,
wait, what's wrong? What's not? I don't know how to unstart pocket. Every minute he was in the house. What did I tell him? That fellow had it in his name. He threw dust in your eyes just like he did Daisy. He was tough. You smell like poop.
Oh, Lindsay, just go.
That's why you're okay.
Go. All the way over there then? Are you a rabbit or what? You should be filming this. I am.
Gatsby's funeral scene. So
Sheen.
Okay, I'm just gonna go.
For example, he talks about the great eyes of Dr. T.J. Huckleberger. These eyes symbolize... For example, he talked about the great eyes of Dr. T.J.
That's a big one. And I'm gonna go to prank. Come and get
I'm
me.
gonna do one quote per page. Or one little section per page.
Okay, that'll be good. Okay, then when you go to print it, come get me because this thing is really hard.
Hello. I'm Stephanie.
Two.
Nothing else to say.